Why, hello there! It has been a while since I did a talking video, and that's mainly just because I haven't really had anything to say. But today I was thinking about something that I really want to talk to you guys about, and that something is getting along with your coworkers in Japan. Of course, getting along with coworkers is important anywhere, but I think it's even more important when you're a foreigner who's moved to a new country and you're looking to build a new support system. Your coworkers are likely to be some of the first people in that support system, and getting along with them well and making a good first impression is going to really help you out. It's not only going to make your work life easier, but hopefully your social and outside of work life easier as well. So, today I want to talk to you about some things that you might encounter in the Japanese workplace and some ways that you can hopefully make things easier and smoother for both you and your coworkers. As always, this is entirely subjective and it's going to relate mainly to English teachers in Japan because that's my experience. But I hope that it'll be at least a little bit helpful for you even if you're not an English teacher. So with that disclaimer out of the way, let's get started. First off is something that you've almost certainly heard before but definitely bears reiterating, which is that greetings are super important. So, greetings in Japanese workplaces are a sign of respect and community, and your participation in this will really help to give a good impression of you to your coworkers. So there are two major greetings, which is in the morning you want to say "Ohayo gozaimasu" to every person the first time that you see them. If you work in a high school, you'll also have a morning staff meeting in the staff room where you'll all stand and bow and say "Ohayo gozaimasu" again. But to every person, the first time you meet them in the morning, you'll say "Ohayo gozaimasu" and bow. And then when you leave, you can say either "Otsukare-sama desu," which there's not really a good English translation for, but it means something like "thank you for your hard work." So you can say that, or you can say "osaki ni shitsurei which is "I'm sorry for leaving before you" to everyone who's staying behind in the office. So either of those is fine. All of those are the polite form, so they're fine to use with anyone. You don't need to worry about it. But yeah, it's a really important thing. Everyone will do it in the office, and it's just a good thing to join in on to show that you're making an effort to be part of the community despite being obviously somewhat of an outsider. Next is something that definitely applies everywhere, but I do think they put more of a point on it in Japan, and that is to be on time. I always tell people that here early is on time and on time is late. So give yourself that little bit of extra time in the morning just in case something unexpected happens. It will definitely be noticed and appreciated that you are on time every day and punctual. Okay, so let's move on to something a little bit more complicated, and unfortunately for both of us, a lot harder to explain because I'm terrible at this, but I'm gonna do my best. So the next thing is some unspoken things that happen in Japanese workplaces. As a foreigner, you won't have to worry about these things nearly as much as your Japanese coworkers, but they're definitely worth being aware of and trying to work around when you can. So the most important one for me has been that in Japanese culture, it's sometimes considered rude to give feedback. And personally, I really appreciate feedback and I often ask for it. And when my request for feedback was met with either non-committal answers or with avoiding the question, I felt like I must have done something really, really wrong and that they just didn't want to tell me. But that's not necessarily the case. It's just that giving any kind of feedback, good or bad, can be seen as overstepping boundaries in Japanese culture. So definitely be aware of that and don't get paranoid like I did. I have found one way to somewhat skirt around it is to start the discussion by giving your own feedback. So say I had a lesson with a coworker, I would say, okay, next time I was thinking maybe we should give them more time for this activity and maybe have them do it in pairs instead. And that seems to have a better chance of leading to a productive discussion than just asking for feedback, or even worse, just waiting for feedback that will never come. So just be aware of this aspect of Japanese culture. You can try and start conversations like I just suggested. Sometimes it'll work and sometimes it won't. But please don't get paranoid and don't feel like everyone hates you just because they're not giving you the feedback that you're used to. Next unspoken thing is that you will sometimes be expected to do things even if you're not specifically asked to do them. You're expected to think ahead and try to think about what might need to be done. So for example, if you're asked to make a worksheet for a specific class, instead of just making one and then waiting for your coworker to come to you and ask you for the worksheet, Make it, then go and copy the correct amount for each class that needs the worksheet, and then put it on your coworker's desk. These things really don't take that much time, but it makes a really big difference and just makes things run much more smoothly. And again, it will definitely be noticed and appreciated by your coworkers. Next, try to remember that your coworkers are very busy. This applies especially to Japanese teachers because they work incredibly hard. So if you haven't been told your schedule for lessons or the number of lesson plans you need for the week, try not to be too frustrated. It's very easy for your coworkers to forget that you can't necessarily understand or read the schedules that they can. And also, they just have so many other things to do that it just might have slipped their mind. So try not to get too annoyed, and instead wait for a moment where your coworker is at their desk, ask if they have a second to talk with you about scheduling, and find out from there. If your coworker is super busy and doesn't have any time at their desk, leave a little post-it note on their desk asking if they can write you a note back with your schedule for the week. But yeah, try not to get too frustrated if you get overlooked sometimes. Everyone has a million jobs other than telling you what your job is, so bear that in mind before getting too annoyed with people. So I feel like that was all pretty basic workplace stuff, and now I would like to talk about getting to know specific coworkers better. So I feel like I mention this every video, but seriously, Enkai. Go to Enkai. You will have so much fun. You will get to know your coworkers in a completely different light, and they will get to know you in like that same fun and entertaining outside of work light. It's just a really important thing to do if you want to cultivate those relationships. So yeah, Enkai. This is another teacher-specific one. So homeroom teachers tend to be very involved with their classes. So that's a really good way to get to know them a little bit better, is to get to know their students. So if you have classes with their homeroom class, try to remember a couple of names of students who did really well, or who were funny, or just anything interesting, and you can tell them that after class. They usually really like to hear stories about how well their class is doing. You can also do this if their class has a really great lesson one day. Just tell them that. They'll be really happy about it, and sometimes they even pass on the praise to their class, and so that's great for the students as well. Everyone wins. Chances are, if you're living in Japan, you are studying Japanese, and this is a great conversation starter. So for me, I practice kanji at my desk whenever I have any free time at work, and it started a lot of good conversations for me. So people will walk past and see that you're practicing Japanese, and some of them will ignore it, but a lot of them will stop to either correct your stroke order and form, or talk about language, or talk about anything really. I think it's a really great way to connect with people because it shows that you're making that effort to communicate with them and to learn their culture and their language, and that you're not just stuck in this scary English-speaking bubble, right? So I think that's a really great way to open up the lines of communication to people that you might not have spoken to before. So yeah, if you're practicing Japanese, try and do it where it can be seen. And finally, this one can apply to any job, anywhere in the world. Try to be a positive face in the workplace. Now, I know that's not always going to be possible, so please don't take this as me saying, always be happy, as though that's realistic, because I know it's not. But when you can, try to be a bright and happy influence in your workplace. So if a coworker is wearing something nice, tell them that. If they're doing a good job with a student, tell them that. If they are a bit down, then give them some encouragement, or maybe help them out a little bit more than you usually would. Keep a smile on your face when you can. Just little things like that make a really big difference. And it won't only change how your coworkers see you, but it'll also make you feel better in general as well. And you will notice other people returning it to you as well. So yeah, I think it's just something to remember, is be happy when you can, be positive when you can. So that's about it for this video. I hope that some of the information here has been at least a little bit helpful to you. As always, if you have any questions, please feel free to ask them in the comments below. I will do my best to answer them if I can. But for now, thank you very much for watching, and bye!